Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast. My name is Jed. Thank you for joining me. We are in the Socrates and Jesus, a Dialogue in Heaven book today. A lot of people are saying this is a banger of a book. A lot of people are saying that this book deserves 11 stars out of 10 stars. I can't believe that. The whole point of a 10-star system is 10 stars is the maximum stars you can get. 11 stars, that's just crazy. You're crazy. But I think you're also right. Should we invent a new class, 11 out of 10 stars, just for this book? A lot of people are saying that. So, where are we in the book? Last time we reflected on, yes, how can we look for a structure behind Socrates' thought to understand what exactly he's doing? Because this is a fantastic conversation to have. The theme at the moment is, how can we understand a group of people or an aspect of reality, a group of people bound together called believers? How do we understand a class of human development called believers? Not just human development, but consciousness development. By taking the Abrahamic religions and understanding not just the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, the three big ones, but understand the principles behind them so that we could apply it to any group like them in the past, in the present, or even in the future. So that when another apocalyptic death cult comes along, that demands blind obedience and belief and imposes limitations on people so that they can have a feeling of sameness out of a promise that they'll be absolved from their feelings of being estranged and their feelings of guilt because they're told their problem is because of sin, or you have problems because you're a bad person and that makes you feel guilty. But if you accept the limitations we impose upon you, who you get to associate with, what you get to do, what you get to think and say, and what you get to learn from. If you accept all those limitations, you'll be like all of the other people who have accepted those limitations, and then you can feel like you're a part of a whole, bigger than yourself. And we'll promise you that Sky Daddy won't beat you for being a naughty person, absolving you from your transgressions. In fact, we'll make that a ritual. Every week you will ask for forgiveness and we will take away the guilt. There's no reflection. There's no learning. There's just this ritual of continual absolution from some authority for everything that you've done wrong, and the feeling of guilt that you have about it. So that applies to all of these religions, but all similar groups. So as the Elon Musks and the tech billionaires with their mass surveillance system and drone murdering of people start their apocalyptic death cults, we can say, oh no, we don't need that. No. We have experienced enough of these already to have what we need to reflect upon them, ousia, self-reflection, with understanding, dianoia, so that we get it. We get the essence of it. We don't have to play it out. We don't have to subjugate women again. We don't have to, enslave a group of people. We don't have to bring the world to the brink of destruction or even cause extinction of humanity. We don't have to do that anymore. We've seen these Abrahamic religions and we've understood the logos behind them. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that meaningful? Not only because these are these kinds of groups. Doesn't just include Abrahamic religion. You can include Nazis and MAGA and Zionism in that. They are using their faith, irrational allegiance to this limitation, so they can be a part of a group, to justify the worst kind of actions you can do to other people. Genocide, starvation, wealth inequality, and ultimately the destruction of the planet and our species. So, super important we understand the what's behind this. So when people say, oh no, how come we don't get to do genocide? That's not fair. You're anti-Semitic. We'll say, no, it's not anti your belief. It's not anti anything. It's understanding a class of human behavior called group belief-based thinking. Any group, if anyone claimed to speak for God and use that to justify harming people, it would be the same. You're not special, you're not different. You're the same. You don't have to do it anymore. Hooray. And this is also an understanding we can take with us to any galaxy or species or race or dimension of reality, because that's what understanding is. The principles behind Socrates' thinking that we can look at are principles from eternity, from the brilliant light of intelligence, pure being, which was the opening of the book. Remember Jesus and Socrates saying, maybe we dropped the ball because we had insight from a brilliant light experience, but we didn't write anything down. So it might have been too tall of an order to ask other people who haven't been able to, endure that experience sufficiently to grasp what it is we're saying. When Jesus says kingdom of God, it's likely he's talking about that experience. Equally, when Socrates talks about justice itself, beauty itself, goodness itself, all of the eidos or aspects of being, he's talking about that same experience. Only Jesus didn't reflect on it with understanding. He went back to his religious beliefs to make sense of it, causing his tragic end or pathetic end, because a tragic hero realizes he missed the mark and he didn't address what he should have addressed at the end of a tragic story, whereas the pathetic hero doesn't. Whereas Socrates reflected on that experience with understanding to develop the dialectic, or to master the dialectic, to engage in philosophical midwifery. If the cause of problems are beliefs about what's good and just and beautiful in relationships towards ourselves and in the world, then he, having a model of actual justice, actual beauty, actual goodness, will benefit any midwife, anyone helping somebody to recognize where people are missing the mark. And of course, he went on beyond the realm of being to wonder, what is the self that's the cause of even divine luminosity? Or in terms of the Parmenides, the second hypothesis, the divine luminosity, to the first, the one self. So two very different reactions to the brilliant light of being, which makes Jesus and Socrates different, but they're the same in that they both had that experience. And they're also both like each other in that they didn't write their own teachings down. So we have Mark and Paul talking about Jesus, and we have Plato, Gorgias, and Aristotle talking about Socrates. Okay, that's where we are. Fortunately, we have Pierre Grimes, who has filled in the gaps left by Plato. Now, Plato, of course, was able to describe dialogue Socrates had with great accuracy. So we do have philosophy only because we have the Balboa translation, because the Balboa translation accurately transcribes it. It's not a false interpretation by the translators. So we have philosophy. And because of the work of Dr. Grimes, we have philosophical midwifery and dream analysis. The two things Plato dropped, because those were things that were in Homer. The story of Achilles is somebody going through dream analysis and midwifery to remove his problems and become a good man, an excellent man. And of course, we have things written down, which is the book we're reading today, Mythology, rounding out the four aspects of philodianoia, the love of understanding. Philosophy, understanding what's true. Midwifery, using our understanding to free ourselves from what's false, our false beliefs. Dream analysis, using our understanding to unpack the providential messages and guidance we get from our dreams. And mythology, writing it down in a book so people like you and me and our wonderful community on Discord and chat, thumbs up, can read it too. So, how can we use Socrates' mastery of understanding to figure out how he's thinking, how he's organizing his conversation to benefit Jesus and us, so that we can think that way as well? How can we master understanding? So that's where we were yesterday. Let's jump in. Okie smoky. And this is so important, it's worth reviewing again. So, the Abrahamic religions are a class of beliefs, and they should be understood as members of a class. Is Christianity or Judaism or Islam, they're not special. They are simply variations of a same class. There are lots of different ways of being, lots of different kinds of belief. This is a group. We also have to see the implications of what follows if there weren't these religions out there, if we didn't have these apocalyptic death cults. Okay. Jesus says, wait a minute. Why are we also needing to understand what happens if they don't exist? That's a good question, because it's a question we've been having, because that's part of the dialectic. When we do the dialectic, this is me fixing my pen. The issue with the pen yesterday was the battery, when I clicked the button, it wasn't forming a connection, so I stuffed some tinfoil in and it works now. The battery connects with the electric circuit. So this is the dialectic. This is what we're here to master as human beings. Everybody is here. Why? Well, it's how you solve your problems. That's how you reach your goals. It's just that simple. Do you have a goal? Hey, you want to I don't know, become a mechanic? You're gonna have to understand how an engine works. You want to drive a car? You have to understand how to drive a car. You got problems? You're gonna understand what's causing your problems, because every human being has goals and every human being has problems. Therefore, no room for blame or guilt or shame or punishment or sin or demonizing people, because everyone has problems. Everyone has problems. We are specifically given problems on purpose as part of our job as a human being. And everyone has problems and everyone has goals, understanding is for everyone, because understanding is how we address problems and how we reach goals. Okay? You're curious about why the world is in such a mess at the moment? Why we still have Nazis and fascism and genocide and wealth inequality and billionaires? Well, because we haven't developed an understanding of understanding. So we're not solving the problems that cause Nazism and slavery and poverty and polluting our planet and etc, 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 etc. Oh, it's the same old tired, boring bullshit every single day. We do not have an understanding of understanding how to solve human problems. Equally so, why do these fascists keep getting voted in? Well, because the progressives don't have a model of understanding for what it means to be progressive. Anything goes. Maybe we need a little bit of billionaires, maybe a little bit of religion, a little bit of saying God hates women, or God hates the black people, or God hates the people who are not part of our death cult. Maybe a little bit. Who knows? Says the left wing. So, why do we have the problems we have? We haven't yet understood understanding. Applied to problems, midwifery. Applied to what we should be doing, philosophy. That simple. Sound complicated? Don't worry, you have a guide. Apply it to your dreams, have some guidance. But how do we hear about it? Write stories, mythology. Those are the four. 4 categories of application of the dialectic, which might themselves fit into the 4 categories of the dialectic. How interesting. Have you thought about that? What's the definition of the dialectic? Where have we learnt it? In philosophy. Parmenides gave us the dialectic. Gave us a puzzle to solve, which we've done on this channel. You can find it in the archive in the YouTube. But what's the best functioning of it? Philosophical midwifery. Hang on a second, is there something that applies to both divisions? Dreams. Dream analysis. And by the way, how do you want to relate back to the dialectic, having benefited in the most significant way? Freeing yourself from the chains of fate, the chains of problems and suffering, repeating cycles of problems in your life, and potentially also escaping the prison of reincarnation so you can continue your spiritual development beyond this life? Having gone through all that, how do you relate back to it? Or maybe you want to share it with your fellow man. Mythology. The dialectical structure of the 4 applications of the dialectic, which fills out Phila Dianoia. The new art we're here to master, a new way of being we're here to share with the world, the love of understanding. Isn't that neat? I think it's neat.
Wow.
And this is it. 4 categories. The subject in relation to itself, definition. How it functions to others, demonstration. That functioning to others, division. As a result of that functioning, back to the beginning, conclusion. Others back to self. And our question is, hang on a second, when we apply this in philosophy, like if beauty exists as an aspect of pure being, exists means exist eternally, we also have to do another story of what happens in a universe where the subject doesn't exist. So that's been a question. Why both? And that's Jesus' question here. If the color green exists, then what advantage do you find in going through all the effort to discuss the negative case if green is not? If something is, why do you have to explain what follows if it isn't? Consider this question, says Socrates. What would you say if we could show that these Abrahamic religions have a particular effect on its followers. But there are other things that can produce those same effects. If that's the case, then these religions are not unique. You're not special Jews, you're not special Christians, you're not special Muslims. It's not unique. Lots of things can produce the same effect of what you are suffering through or experiencing. Certainly then, they're not unique, since other things can duplicate what they do. Again, if that were true, then would there be any reason one would choose to belong to them if they could get the same thing without having to be a member of that religion? Why pay for the subscription if you can get the effects for free? Now your priest will say no, or your imam or your rabbi will say, no, you have to pay the subscription. Because they're the ones who get the money. Oh. But we know enough about multi-level marketing scams to recognize that's what's behind that. Now, who's going to pay for their golden jets? Anyway, now, isn't it curious that if you wouldn't need to believe in God if you get the same benefits by believing something else? What a curious way of reasoning, says Jesus. I do see your point. I like to see that kind of reasoning with this idea. So we could describe how to understand these religions in a class in which all their divisions can be seen as members of the class. So divisions, that should spark something in our mind. An opportunity to apply our key. Earlier in the book, we talked about the parables. Jesus saying, if you want that state of mind that I'm calling the kingdom of heaven, you have to understand something. You have to solve a puzzle. The puzzle is understanding the parables. It's not for everyone. The masses can go kick rocks. But my special group, I'm going to give you the key to solving the parable. Here is our key. So if you are reading one of these texts that reflect the Logos, or anything really, and you want to understand it, or you want to unlock it through understanding, look for one of these categories. Is somebody defining something? Then, as the story continues, look for a time when they demonstrate how that thing they've defined functions. And then look for how that functioning then is being applied in specific different scenarios. And then look for something that takes all of those scenarios, unifies it or synthesizes it, and then takes that new understanding back to the start. Synthesis and analysis. That's a conclusion. Now what we've seen here is the word division. We are seeing all of the divisions within a class. So we need to look for the other ones. Let's do it together. Because, part of me thinks don't solve other people's problems, puzzles. But part of me thinks that, if you're the sort of person watching this, then you've probably done a lot of work already. If you're still watching after we've gone through this, then you're probably thinking along with me, so I don't know. Well, it's not hard. Let's have a look. Demonstrate. Have we seen the word functioning? Have we seen some sort of definition? If we are using the word division, and then can we anticipate as we read further a conclusion? Have a look. Go back to the beginning of this section and look for definition and demonstration. The Abrahamic religions are a class of beliefs, and they should be understood. So maybe the class of the beliefs are the things that we have to define. What's the name for that class of beliefs? So let's talk about if it exists or if it doesn't exist. I think that fits. Look. Definition, if that thing we're defining exists and if it doesn't exist. So maybe the class of belief is the definition we're after. What's the class of belief all Abrahamic religions fit into? Now, we have to show that these Abrahamic religions has a particular effect on its followers. And you can get the same effect without being in any of those. You can just be a member of any thing, any member or division. So, the effect it has on its followers would be the functioning of this class of believers. And the divisions are all the examples: Judaism, Islam, Christianity, and others. So, isn't that neat? We applied our key to unlock a mystery. Hooray.
Don't be disgusted. 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 I'm too pure. 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 I'm pure. I'm pure. I'm pure. I'm pure.
See? Now, we applied the key. We didn't get understanding. We didn't get an answer. We unlocked a question. Therefore, we can carry as we read. Hey, good evening, Ree. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you feeling today? We've unlocked a question. What is the definition of this class, of which the Abrahamic religions are divisions of? We've unlocked a second question. How does it affect or function on its members? How do people within these groups feel? How do they act? Towards themselves, towards other people within the group, and towards the world. Hey, are they genociding? Are they murdering? Are they oppressing women? Are they justifying slavery? Are they trying to bring the world to an end? That's how they're functioning. But also, how are they functioning within themselves? Are they conflicted? Are these people seeking Armageddon and delighting in the murder of children and the starvation of children and the subjugation of everyone else for the benefit of profits? Are they happy or are they conflicted? What's the nature of, hey, not even those people at the top, just regular members, the foot soldiers, the teenagers that I run into on the street when I'm playing music that are wearing the shirts that all say the same thing. Some of them are saying, oh, you need to love Jesus because I was doing drugs, but now Jesus has turned my life around. But then there are some people in the middle who are quiet and they're like kind of scared. They don't want to be there. Some people are like curious. I wish I could play music. What sort of conflict is going on within them? Because they are conflicted. It's not hard to tell. Poor kids. So, what's the name? How does it function? Can we identify new members other than the three Abrahamic religions? And then can we come to a conclusion? But also, Sokka's saying we have to do this for also if it doesn't exist. What if this class of belief doesn't exist? And if we tick all 8 boxes, we would have understanding.
Imagine people changing their positions and in better. Freaks.
So we have to understand these religions as a class that we can define that has an effect on its members, in which all of the divisions can be shown to be merely members or divisions or members or divisions within the class. After my description of these religions, you will have to see if my description fits what is common and essential in each of them. So, how do we define something? Maybe he's giving us a hand. Look for something that's common and essential in each of them. Or maybe what's common and essential? Synthesis. We take all these divisions, we find what's common in all of them and needed in all of them. Maybe we can come to the synthesis, which we can then take back to our first definition and have a new understanding. Maybe. Let's see what happens. So we have to find what's common and essential in each of them. If you agree that these Abrahamic religions fit into a common class, then we can also show what must follow if they did not exist. So it sounds like this opening introduction is Socrates giving those who are open and curious and genuinely seeking philosophical understanding, he's giving us an introduction. Here is the structure. This is what you need to look for. A definition of a class, how it demonstrates or functions or affects the members. What are the different divisions, different members within that class? And then after you go through all that, can we conclude something that is common and essential in all of them? Allowing you to take that back to the beginning, and now you've grasped this class. Meaning, you don't have to get scammed by the next religion, the next death cult, Elon Musk's next pitch, Peter Thiel's next cult, or the next MAGA whatever. You don't have to, you can grasp it now. You've learnt what was there to be learnt. Thank you, Socrates. I like that, says Jesus. And if any new religion matches the general description, then we could say it fits within that Abrahamic class. The new ones that might come up. So we don't have to go through another genocide, or another crusades, or end the world, you know. Wouldn't that be neat? I think it'd be neat. Okay, the primary drive that attracts members to become believers is their need to believe in something. In that, they need to believe that. The underlying belief is that if you become a part of a whole, you will A, gain identity. You will get protections and benefits from that identity. And you will get balloons. The chief benefit is you will gain a freedom from your sense of estrangement, being alone, different, and guilt. What's guilt? Not recognizing that all problems you had to have had and are actually puzzles you were here to solve. Problems are not because you're innately a sinner or innately evil. Problems are from PATHOLOGOS, which we're here to understand and master the art of understanding it. So you can either do that, or some multi-level marketing guy comes along and says, "Hey, are you sick of learning how to read books? Are you sick of learning the art of philosophical midwifery, but you still want to remove those pesky problems? And that feeling of shame and guilt for having problems? Don't worry, send $9.99 every month, and we will absolve you from that sense of estrangement and guilt you have. Problems be gone." And then there's a lady that comes on stream. "Wow, it's like magic. I didn't have to learn anything, or practice anything, or risk it in action. I could just use this miracle product and problems be gone." That's right. That's why we call it Problems Be Gone. For just $9.99, you can be a member. Because and if you don't, God will punish you. Oh Lord, I don't want that. Oh Lord, indeed. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. You gain a freedom from that estrangement and guilt, but you also get a kind of fellowship. Not only that, you can become a gold class member. You're a member of a community. You're one of us now. Wow, I've never been a part of a community before. It's a kind of fellowship. $9.99. Now, what's kind of community and fellowship? What's essential in joining is the idea that it has a drama built around a final catastrophic end. But my friend says I shouldn't pay for problems be gone. I should work on understanding myself through Philodianoia. Well, you can tell your friend that she's an idiot because the world's gonna end. The what? The world's gonna end? Yes. Catastrophically. Oh. Shit. That's right. But if you give up any other ways of thinking or acting, and you limit yourself, you can be like all the other people in our cult group program that are all experiencing that same feeling of being limited and only participating in people in the group, in that association. So if everyone feels limited in their thinking and their acting and who they relate to, a limit feeling within the group and within themselves and within the world. And that will give you a sense of unity. Oh, well, that doesn't sound very good. Shut up, Betty. Okay, but if you do feel that, there will arise in you a feeling of something different. And the whole will demand sacrifices that stands above. But what if I don't want to give up drinking? Well, you are just a mere part. The whole is more important. Think of the whole, Betty. So you feel alike each other in sharing in that same limited relationship, but within yourself, you will still feel like you are opposed and unlike people. That's the sadness in the eyes of all of the people that I've seen in these groups. They pretend to be like the person on the tram carrying the Jesus Saves You sign, pretends to be a part of a special group, but you can see how sad he is sitting alone like that, opposed and unlike everyone else. You can see the people there watching everybody else having fun on a Friday and Saturday night, and they wear their Jesus Saves You t-shirts, and they feel they're supposed to be within a group because there's like 10 of them wearing the same t-shirt, and sometimes they might sing a song about Jesus, but you can see that they don't feel it. Within themselves, they feel unlike and different, even though the promise is sameness and likeness. Now, what are we doing? We're using understanding. Same, different, like, unlike, whole, part, limit, unlimit. If you want a full list of these self-logos terms, the basis of understanding, you can check out the Parmenides, the Balboa translation of the Parmenides, and we've read, and perhaps the best demonstration of that is the first hypothesis. We have a playlist early in this channel's life. We went through the introduction and the first hypothesis of Parmenides, where you can see each of these categories, and we go through it together. We write it up on the board. So you too can gain an understanding of understanding. by reading the Parmenides. And you don't have to pay $9.99, and you don't have to limit yourself in any way. So, if you want to pay $9.99, you can. You can buy me a coffee. There's a link below. If you like. You don't have to. So, feeling of sameness, to be like other parts of a whole, and that likeness is based on limitation. There's a promise that you will be absolved of your... So, the underlying threat of punishment. That's the guy at the gym yesterday I've been talking about. When he said, don't listen to music, or I don't like you having fun. Now, that wasn't a very good pitch. My first thought was, why would I go along with that? When a car salesman tries to sell you a car, they say how great it would be if you go along with their idea. My idea is you buy a car from me. Here is how great it will be if you go along with it. Here's my pitch. Here is how you'll be happier and benefited. Gym guy didn't do that. The pitch was implication of punishment if you don't. The benefit is I will withdraw my being a thug and a bully at the gym. If you don't do it, I'll make your life worse by being a miserable bastard in whatever way, threatening you. He's already started stealing my weights when I use them. It's fucking childish. Anyway, but if you do as I say, then I won't be mean to you. The reward is a removal of punishments. A lot of abusers and bullies think this way. Now, they are the ones creating the punishment. They are the ones doing the bad thing that they're promising to remove. These people are doing the genocides. They are ending the world. They are running defense for billionaires and polluting the world and trying to bring the world to that ending, that catastrophe. And they are the one teaching children that they will be tortured in hell for eternity if they don't subscribe to the group. So, bullying, thuggishness. That's the promise. If you accept these limitations in your life, we promise that we won't torture you for eternity. And that guilt that you have only because you believe us when we tell you you're bad, we'll remove that too. That feeling of loneliness in a world that is felt because we don't have a world built on mutual understanding and enlightenment, in part because of what we're doing, yeah, we'll remove that too. They're not actually going to remove those things because they're the ones continuing to make it. That's why it's not good to listen to bullies. Even if I did give up my love of music at the gym for this weird meathead, he's not going to stop being a miserable cunt. Even if you do appease Trump and remove school lunches or send brown people to concentration camps in El Salvador, Guantanamo Bay in Florida, he's not going to be nice to you. He's not going to, the threat of punishing you isn't going away. He'll still punish you. Because it's based on a lie. From the beginning. Anyway. What we're doing is understanding that. So we don't have to listen to it anymore. And play it out within our souls, our relationships, and our species. Neat. So you got to believe in the lies, and then they offer it. So this is manufactured consent. They create the problem. Hey, what happened? Who allowed 9/11 to happen? Who orchestrated the attacks that then Netanyahu used to justify ethnic cleansing and genocide? Oh, the government did. Netanyahu did. Funny that. Create a problem. offer a solution, join our death cult, and we will murder the terror, invade Iraq and kill all the terrorists. Genocide the Palestinians and save the hostages. So, create a problem to manufacture a reaction and offer the solution. Manipulation. And this is just happening here. So can we say MAGA? Or the Bush, the Republican thing, the murdering of millions of Iraqi innocent people? Is that another member of this class? Manufactured problems. If you accept limitation, you can't vote for anyone else, you can't talk to non-MAGAs, you can't speak out against war and genocide. Accept limitations to be a member of a group, giving you a kind of identity. We promise not to bomb you. We promise not to send you to the death camps. We promise not to ethnically cleanse you. Pinky swear. And within each member, they still feel, well, I do wear the red hat, but I'm not like that crazy person, or that crazy MAGA, or that brain dead MAGA, or that sexist MAGA, or that racist MAGA. Still a feeling of conflict because you are like, but also you feel unlike. You are told you are the same, but you feel different. Supposedly, the promise is you're a part of a greater whole, but you still feel like a part. And the parts are not cared about. So we're finding perhaps through understanding the essential components, the common and essential aspects of each of these things, we can also apply it to other things. To any new religion that matches the general description. That includes Zionism, MAGA, and whatever Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are cooking up for us tomorrow. Interesting?
What feminists want is to specifically ruin your life.
Okay, the group demands sacrifices. Give me your money. You feel you're supposed to have that same, so you share in that same limitation, but you also feel different and unlike within yourself. You have the sense that you're separated from others and that you actually do still exist by yourselves. They don't seem to give a crap about you really when you need it, in spite of being members of the whole. And a mark that distinguishes them, each member, so this is one of those characteristics that we can say is necessary, that you do not need self-reflection and an examination. No ousia, no logos. The very two aspects of personal, spiritual, psychic development and evolution. Self-reflection, ousia, through the logos, understanding or rationality. Neither are needed. And you therefore do not discover the origin of the differences that you feel or the origin of your actual feeling of estrangement. Now, the fact estrangement definition: no longer being on friendly terms or part of a social group. Breakdown in relationships. Disconnected. mutual enmity or difference in someone where there has formerly been love, affection, or friendliness. No longer friendly. No longer connected. Now, how would you state the condition of believers once they leave? Okay, so in that we have a definition of what it means to be in that class. No ousia, no logos, a bunch of promises that we will remove the suffering we're inflicting on you, accept a bunch of limitation, then you can feel like you're the same as others. That sameness will make you feel like a part of a group or a part of a greater whole. And the promise is that will overcome your feeling of disconnection and loneliness and unfriendliness with the world. It won't, because you'll be conflicted within yourself, because in spite of that sameness of a way of being, of limitation, you will still feel different and unlike everyone else. And the other promise, estrangement and guilt, you won't have the removal of the estrangement. You won't have the removal of guilt either. You just have a ritualized process of instilling further guilt through a sacrament called reconciliation, or saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I'm sorry. Say you're sorry. No. Take your sorries and stuff them in a sack. Because what we're supposed to do is self-reflection ousia with logos or dialectic to find the origin or cause of problems. And if it turns out you had to have the problems you had, and you would have necessarily had the problems you had, given all of the forces on your soul up until this point in your development and reincarnation, then what the hell does it mean to say I'm sorry? Let's say dogs that are starting to talk with their buttons, Bunny the talking dog and the other talking dogs. Soon maybe they'll be speaking. But now they're not speaking. Do we want all the dogs to say sorry for their level of development and the problems they are having learning to participate in logos? No, they're dogs. They're lovely. Leave them alone. Leave the dogs alone. Equally true for human beings. Therefore, teaching a child they're innately bad for being what they are is abuse. So, really makes that question from last time, from a few days ago. Is some religious beliefs okay? Or is some belief okay? Well, if it's abuse, then no. No, it's not okay if it's abuse. To teach people problems are not a lack of understanding, and instead teaching them to believe their problems are caused because they're innately bad, or they've got the devil in their heart, or they're a sinner, or because they're a woman and women are less than men because Adam and Eve, and because the apple and all that crap. Eve tricked Adam, caused sin. Not in the book, but that's the story we're told. Yeah, belief-based thinking is abuse. There is that other category called right opinion. That's different than belief, that we learn about in the symposium. So, no need for self-reflection, ousia, and no need for logos, the examination of self. The two very things that mark where we are needing to do, what we're needing to do at this point of evolution, and the two qualities or essential components of growth. Which is why philosophical midwifery is so important. If you grew up in a tradition, like the PATHOLOGOS might even fit within this group, where you haven't learned ousia, you haven't learned the logos, it's not a part of your way of being, and the PATHOLOGOS or these religious groups specifically block ousia and logos, how do you grow? How do you learn? How do you change? If logos and ousia are the two essential components for growth, change, and evolution, are there certain people who are just screwed? Just let them be believers? Some people just can never change? So, we're not making fun of the question, it's a legitimate and good question. Because that's what we're told. Well, not everyone can be Einstein. Some people just have to have religion for morals and ethics. They just need to be told what to do. That might follow, considering ousia and logos are the components needed for change, solving problems. And so some people just have to live a life of suffering, live a life of misery. They do all the work to become evolved into a human form and get a pathologos, but they don't get to solve their problems. They just get to suffer and then evolve downwards, become an ant or a donkey or even worse. Because they just don't have ousia and logos because it wasn't taught to them, because everyone gets a pathologos. In fact, we could conclude, well, all human beings have to be believers, have to keep a pathologos. Maybe not a religious believer, but pathologos believer. Unless, if we all get a kind of belief like this, be it a religious or pathologos belief, so we could even maybe ask the question, is the pathologos, the fundamental false belief about self and reality that all human beings get from childhood, it's not a blame game, it's universal, that we are therefore here to address, to remove our injustice in the world and remove our suffering within ourselves and fulfill our purpose or destiny, the meaning of life, in the same class as the Abrahamic religions. It's a new question we've come to birth right now. Religions. Next question. If ousia, self-reflection, culminating in the ultimate experience of self-reflection, knowing yourself as being eternity, beauty itself, the culmination of a true loving relationship, if you and your beloved are unified in a love of understanding and have a shared model that you are both seeking in your lives, then loving relationships can be a reflection and path to your purpose, human excellence, self-reflection, and logos, dianoia, and or dialectic, looks like a B, dialectic, use this button, whoops, dialectic are necessary for growth, evolution, spiritual development, enlightenment, and removing problems and both ousia and logos are denied, rejected, or blocked by that locked in members within that class, within groups. Yeah, members of groups within that class then is understanding and development impossible for some people and perpetual suffering and negative reincarnation, negative post life effects. There may be some punishment in the afterlife or whatever, or some negativity in your spiritual experiences after this world. And reincarnation inevitable for anyone raised in religious groups or B, anyone with or anyone with a PATHOLOGOS. And the implication being, if PATHOLOGOS is part of that class, therefore some, or the implication, all people in other words, are we all doomed to suffer and not develop and stay in the cognitive functioning of belief. And not understanding. So that's the question. Is the Pathologos in the same class as Abrahamic religions? And if ousia, self-reflection, and logos, dianoia, dialectic, are necessary for growth, evolution, spiritual development, enlightenment, and also removing problems, and both ousia and logos are denied, rejected, or blocked in members of groups within that class, then is understanding and development impossible for some people, and perpetual suffering and negative post-life effects and negative reincarnation inevitable for either A, anyone raised in religious groups, or anyone with a pathologos. Therefore, some or all people, are some or all people doomed to suffer and not develop, and therefore stay in the cognitive functioning of belief and not understanding? Do we need belief for some idiots? Miserable idiots. They just have to believe what they're told. Or everyone. Because if pathologos is also a kind of group-based thinking from the family that also places limitations and also rejects or blocks the development of logos or understanding to save the family belief, are we all doomed? That's the issue. Do we tolerate religious beliefs because some people are just too stupid and they have to suffer and they can't develop and they can't grow? Or, next step, if pathologos is something we all have, are we all? Is it every man for himself? Dog eat dog world? Because we're all just miserable, sorry bastards that will never move out of belief-based thinking and solve problems. Just build a giant prison and put everyone in it. That's where we're going. That's the issue. This is the issue. Here's the question. If the pathologos remain protects and sustains itself, is there a shallow kind of ousia needed for that? If the pathologos has a sick teaching about self-reality, love what it means to be knower, knowing. Is there a shallow kind of reasoning or logos needed for that? Therefore, then, is there an activity or art that can make use of that shallow ousia and logos to solve problems and remove suffering and evolve and learn, grow and evolve spiritually, personally, personal growth, spiritual growth, or psychic growth. Personally and spiritually. Psychic's the same as spiritually. So that's the problem. If all Abrahamic religions are justified by some people are just too stupid and they need their morals and ethics from these religions because they're dumb, not like me, like Peterson. Well,
I don't believe in religion, but religion is for dumb people. I'm Jordan Peterson.
That's a good impression. Or fascists. Well, I'm not Christian, says Trump, but I like Christianity because it makes people stupid and just blindly loyal to this limited group, limited thinking, and blindly obedient to group leader, so I can use them to get rich and take away food from children and Medicare from everyone and Meals on Wheels from older people who need to eat and pediatric care and medicine and medical research and genocide all the Palestinian children. Yeah, let's do that too. Is that a legitimate argument? More than that, if the PATHOLOGOS is in that group, are we all doomed? Everyone can just suffer and die. Because both Abrahamic religions and PATHOLOGOS either reject, deny, or block ousia and logos for anybody in that group, and everyone has a PATHOLOGOS, and a lot of people grow up in Abrahamic religions. Therefore, is understanding and development impossible for some people, and perpetual suffering and negative post-life effects and reincarnation inevitable for most people growing up in religious beliefs, or everyone because we all have a PATHOLOGOS. Therefore, are we all doomed to suffer and not develop and stay in belief-based savage caveman thinking and not understanding? Do we tolerate beliefs if beliefs cause human problems and not demand understanding if understanding is what solves problems? In other words, are we a species doomed for the worst kind of functioning and inevitable extinction? Okay, here is an option. If we all have a pathologos, does the pathologos protect and sustain itself in the ups and downs? Something that keeps us blindly loyal to our false beliefs about ourselves, playing out the same patterns over and over again? Is there therefore a shallow kind of ousia needed for that protection and sustaining? If the pathologos is a sick teaching about self-reality, love and knowing, is there a shallow kind of reasoning or logos needed for that sick teaching? You suck, you can't understand, some people can't understand, our family is best family, people looking different from us are bad, women's are bads.
The more holes, the better.
Not relevant, Emma.
I find that very entertaining.
You always do. Because I don't have enough RM bound clips on my soundboard. Therefore, is there an activity or art that can make use of that shallow ousia and logos to solve problems and remove suffering? A, and B, to learn, grow, evolve, and both personally and spiritually. If so, and all people get a pathologos, is this art necessary for all people? Making it, therefore, making it the whole, or at least a vital part of the meaning of life itself. Okay. From that, thus, we can answer that former question shared in our chat. Former question is belief okay for some or all? And understanding just for some or a few. The answer being, rationally speaking, from our reflection, no. Understanding and that art of philosophical midwifery is for all and either part or whole of the meaning of life for all people. And philosophical midwifery is specifically as philosophical midwifery is specifically the removal or dissolving of false beliefs to allow for the freedom to develop understanding. I.e., to move from belief-based cognitive functioning to understanding cognitive functioning. That's the meaning of life. Move from belief-based cognitive functioning to understanding-based functioning. And we're also adding to the text, from the text, love. And love being an essential part, a motivating part is motivating part. It's beautiful. And loving relationships. This is a version of a loving relationship as well, philosophical midwifery. Therefore, love and logos. Or philodianoia. Philodianoia. The art for everyone. So somebody let, hooray. So someone let Sus from our channel know that we have a new catchphrase for our Etsy range and our merch store. Love and logos, or philodianoia. The art for everyone. Philodianoia. The art for everyone. Put that on a plushie. particularly people within this class that all Abrahamic religions are a class of. So, when we realize, oh, maybe we shouldn't have been, subjugating women for hundreds and thousands of years, hundreds or thousands of years. Maybe we shouldn't have been like murdering people and torturing people to death through the Crusades. Maybe we shouldn't have began the Dark Ages and by murdering all of the philosophers and shutting down the academy and burning the libraries. Maybe we shouldn't have been genociding and starving the Palestinian children to death. Maybe we shouldn't be justifying slavery and subjugation of other human beings just because they not rich or look different. Well then, yeah. Correct. What should we do to make amends? Say I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Or if the cause of those terrible, terrible ways of functioning within ourselves, in our relationships, and to the world are caused by this class of belief that the Abrahamic religions are a member of and all human problems are a member of, the PATHOLOGOS, then is the reconciliation or the forgiveness not some sort of cosplay of some ritual of saying I'm sorry to a policeman, yeah, sure, or priest in a box in the reconciliation box in church, but rather this. Therefore, would the punishment for all of the crimes be go through midwifery? Yourself and spend your life creating a world free of exploitation and impoverishing people to exploit them through slavery. A world where we're free from work, using our collectively shared resources and technology so that we can all go through philosophical midwifery, because it's the meaning of life and the art for everyone. Setting up that kind of world would be reconciliation. For anyone involved in any of this, particularly Abrahamic religions, but anyone, because we all get PATHOLOGOS. Necessarily, because if ousia and logos are what's needed for development, if PATHOLOGOS seeks and protects and sustains itself, is there a shallow kind of ousia needed for that? If PATHOLOGOS is a sick teaching about self-reality, love, and knowing, is there a shallow kind of reasoning or logos needed for that? Then is there an activity or art that can make use of that shallow ousia and logos to solve problems, remove suffering, and learn or grow spiritually and personally? Philosophical midwifery. If so, and all people get a PATHOLOGOS, is this art necessary for all people, therefore making it either the whole or at least a vital part of the meaning of life itself? Thus, can we answer that former question, is belief, this is the question, is belief okay for some? Yo, welcome Swag. Is belief okay for some, or all, if we all have PATHOLOGOS? And understanding just for a some or a few, or none? No. Understanding and that art of philosophical midwifery is for all people and either a part or the whole of the meaning of life for all people. As philosophical midwifery is specifically the removal of or dissolving of false beliefs to allow the freedom to develop understanding, i.e., to move from belief-based cognitive functioning to understanding-based cognitive functioning, allowing us to remove our problems and suffering and grow and develop to reach our purpose or excellence. Probably put that in there, even though it said before, add it to the conclusion. It's down. Move this up here. Belief-based cognitive functioning to understanding-based cognitive functioning to A, remove human problems. Now we could even say it goes beyond humanity. It's for any species at this level of development. Problems and suffering. And B, to develop into our highest, or what we're calling in the text, true excellence. Okay. Through love and logos, or philodianoia. Philodianoia. This is the plushie. Philodianoia. The art for everyone. So, I hope that answers the question we got in chat yesterday. Good question. Worth answering. Do we tolerate some beliefs? Some people are just stupid and they need to be told to believe, and therefore remain stuck in problems and suffering and experience the negative consequences in their life and after this life because some people are just too stupid? Or is the movement through from belief to understanding for everyone necessarily because it A, removes human problems and suffering, and B, is needed to develop to our highest true excellence? And therefore, if it's necessary for all people, and all people start in either Abrahamic religions or Pathologos, or both, then no one is out of the game. No one has to stay stuck as a believer, either a believer to your family Abrahamic religion, your Pathologos, or the Abrahamic religions, or any other religion that we end up seeing falling within that same class. Any of these belief-based groups that reject ousia, self-reflection, or logos, understanding. You don't solve problems by reflecting on yourself to find the source or cause of your problems and understand it. No. Just believe in what we say, and Sky Daddy will magic your problems away. Promise. Just pay $4.99 each month. No, it'd be more than that, wouldn't it? $99.99 each month. And we promise to take away your guilt and your feeling of estrangement, your feeling of sadness, disconnection, loneliness, difference. And we'll offer you a member of a group, be it the family Pathologos group, with that shared way of being, involving being limited. Don't be like, and don't go against a family tradition. We're all racists, we're all sexist, we're all Muslims, we're all Jews. And equally so for the religions. Don't go against, only associate with other Christians, other Mormons, other Scientologists, whatever. So enforce a limit on your thinking, acting, functioning, and relationships, And that will give you a feeling of being the same as other parts or members within that whole or group, because you're all limited. And the promise is, if you accept those limitations, you get a feeling of sameness and you feel like part of a greater whole. And Sky Daddy will take away your guilt and your loneliness. But really, every single member is in conflict, because even though they say that, they do feel different. They're told to be the same, but they really feel different. They are supposedly like everyone else in that shared way of being, but they really feel unlike. That's the conflict within the soul of all believers, because they're all different. Been to church? Look at all the crazies in the church. They're not like you. No one's opinions are the same as yours. No one's way of being is the same as yours. And you don't really feel like you've solved any goddamn problems. Just saying I'm sorry? What? I still have the same fucking problem. I haven't learned shit. Oh no, but God forgives you. Forgives what? What caused it? It's going to happen tomorrow, you idiot. Oh no, but guilt makes it hard to reflect. What? Just reflect. Fuck the guilt. Actually, maybe the feeling of guilt is part of the group thing. Create a problem. Problems are caused not by PATHOLOGOS that all humans get. It's because you're a sinner and the devil's in your heart. Or because you're a woman. Or because you're not of the chosen people. So create a problem. Create a world where people feel disconnected and estranged and guilty. Then offer the solution. Join our club. $9.99 a month. We'll promise you salvation. And part of that Abrahamic religion is it's based on a drama, based on a catastrophic end. The world will end and Jesus will come, or Muhammad will come, or Moses will come, or you pick it. Xenu will come, you're Scientologist. Joseph Smith will come if you're a Mormon, and he will smack, and all the baddies and all the goodies in this group will go to heaven and have 72 virgins or whatever. So, rejecting or denying the need for self-reflection and understanding, ousia and dianoia, are you a former Christian? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what I am. It's true for everyone. For anyone and any planet at any time. There will be a class of development where people will be bound by groups that limit their functioning, that will be taken advantage of. And one of the essential features is no self-reflection, no understanding. Belief and not understanding, and no ousia. Instead, you are promised to be a member of a group, to be like people who also are limited. Therefore, we can understand not just the Abrahamic religions, we might also have gained an insight into the PATHOLOGOS, the fundamental false belief all human beings get from childhood before we develop critical thinking, causing our repeating cycles of problems. A self-fulfilling prophecy, so a kind of ousia there. We have a inner dialogue that criticizes us. You're not good enough. You're not capable. That person isn't going to like you. You can't do this. So there's a kind of rationality there. Only a shallow pool of self-reflection to maintain it. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Self-destructive behavior. And a shallow kind of logos. But there is an art called philosophical midwifery that makes use of that shallow pool of ousia and logos to go through that developmental process, because both of those things are needed for growth and solving problems. Making philosophical midwifery necessary for everyone, even your dog maybe, but definitely all human beings, and maybe even other alien species. Therefore, either the meaning of life or a fundamental, vital aspect of the meaning of life. So, that's the answer to the question from chat yesterday. Belief's okay for some? Nope. Understanding not for everyone? Nope. Understanding for everyone. Necessarily. The meaning of life. Why we're here. Now, that's a movement from... Oh, thumbs up.
It's a win-win.
Wow. So, that's a movement from this class that we are seeing in the text upward to the introduction of, or the use of, the introduction of an art. Now, the use of that art is specifically understanding, which is why it's important to have a midwife, or, you know, philosophy isn't a one-person game. You might be stuck in this belief-based thinking with only a shallow pool of ousia and logos, but someone who has actually developed the art is someone participating in understanding, dianoia, thumbs up. So that's the whole significance of sharing this, putting it in action, starting an Etsy store for sus, creating an Instagram thing for, or TikTok for Reeve. Because as the teacher is to the student, is to student, so too, or this, the student can teach others. Or the model of learning. The model of learning, or Dharma, because it's a spiritual. Dharma is the word for spiritual learning. Dharma is A is to B as B is to the new person. Teacher is the student, as that student now can function. So the role here is teacher to student, and here is teacher to student. But B is doing both. B was a student, now B is a teacher. That's called a mean analogy. What we've been seeing over and over in this text is that a loving relationship is to discover the significance of mean analogies. There is a mean between you and your beloved. Some ideal of understanding and excellence that you can both seek. There is a mean between you and the other person, love. And logos. Don't forget that. And in participating in this game, mean analogy, we are seeing that, hey, all you guys wouldn't have been benefited in this significant way if you weren't tuning into my channel. I wouldn't have been able to be benefited and passing it on myself if I wasn't benefited by Pierre. He, etc. from Socrates. Socrates to Diotima. So we have this lineage. Diotima is to Socrates, is to Pierre, is to Jed, is to you, is to the next person that you have a relationship or share it with or create content to share with. See? That's the lineage. That's the Dharma successorship. Passing on of the teaching. In other words, as everybody here goes through, the midwife is to you, the subject, because again, the meaning of life, it's not just for some, it's for everyone. So too can the subject, midwife, someone else. So the subject as a, or you as a subject, then you as a midwife to whoever you share it with, to your friend. So the midwife is to you as you are to your friend. Because, as we saw in that reflection, The midwife is someone who is using ousia and logos, understanding, dianoia, to make use of the shallow pool of ousia and logos we have. That's why it's necessary. And so one of the questions of this book that Socrates and Jesus had is, hey, how are we the same and how are we different? Same and different. See? One of the reasons they're same is they didn't pass it on well. We killed Socrates before he finished making his books, his mythology. In the Phaedo, he said, my dream master, has been telling me I need to make songs and poetry. But we murdered him right after that. And of course, Jesus didn't write anything down. He left it to Mark and Paul to do. Paul being probably the worst person you would ever meet in your life, upon which modern Christianity is based. And Mark giving a very different story, showing the progression of human development to a brilliant light experience, but what happens if you don't do understanding. If you don't have understanding to remove your false beliefs, you may take that brilliant light of experience and justify your early religious Abrahamic teachings. And Jesus identified with David and played out that game to his end. A tragic hero realizes he should have reflected on his problem at the end of the tragic hero archetype, but Jesus didn't. So he's not even a tragic hero. He has all of the parts of a tragic hero except that realization at the end, the epiphany, I think it's called. So he's a pathetic hero. But he's a story that we could all learn from. Thanks to Mark. And Paul does, this Abrahamic stuff. I'm better than Jesus, and here's a bunch of lies. So I can be better than Jesus and start the church and create a cult based on a catastrophic end, which he thought would happen in his lifetime, by the way. This Armageddon that all of these believers are trying to create by destroying the world is already been proven to be nonsense because it was supposed to happen hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Resurrection story. No Easter. Every Easter, buy a chocolate and remind everyone there is no resurrection story in Jesus. That was added hundreds of years later by the church, who were lying to you. You know, the people who murdered a bunch of people for a very long time and have stolen all the money and are still continuing to oppress 50% of our population that we call women? Yeah, those guys. Well, they're actually liars, as well as murderers and sexists and racists and so on. Remember that and eat a chocolate egg. Resurrection story not in Mark. So, this is the significance of philosophical midwifery and love and logos, philodianoia, the new way of being, that somebody in either the Abrahamic religions or pathologos can move up and develop a new paradigm or model, a new paradigm or universal model. Let's drill this a bit better. So you can move upwards to a paradigm of the logos or a universal model. So you know how politicians contradict themselves and we don't like it, but we don't really know why, and reporters never say, oh, that's a contradiction or a hypocrisy, and that's it. And then they say, so what? Who cares? What are you going to do about it? Well, a hypocrisy or a contradiction shows that they are not following principles of a universal model or the paradigm of the logos, which means they are unjust and inaccurate and should not be leading. By definition, because the universal model or the paradigm of the logos allows for principles that are always true. So not true for the poor, but not for the rich. Always true. And beneficial. So hey, the politicians are making themselves rich, but letting other people starve to death. That's not benefiting the people you're supposed to be ruling. Beneficial. Therefore, out. Get the fuck out of here. As soon as a doctor stops acting for the benefit of his patients, get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. This is what it means to be rational, to demand a universal model or the paradigm of the logos from which we derive our principles that are always true and beneficial, because this is eternal. Eternal, because it's from the realm of being, which is that brilliant light of pure being that Jesus and Socrates have both been talking about. Okay? And from this universal model and principles, you can therefore make generalized statements or conclusions. So when we say, hey, is this the meaning of life? Oh no, what you mean is your meaning of life. Hey, is it true that we should never ever do genocide? No, that's just your truth. It's my truth that the Palestinians are savages and we need to kill all the children and take all their land and steal their houses and give it to Trump and Netanyahu, Daddy. That's not a universal or generalized principle. That's the problem with the left. They lack a model or principles. No principles, no model, no paradigm that is universally or always true. Make generalized statements so they can't say, hey, no, wealth inequality is always true. But shouldn't we have some billionaires because freedom? Shouldn't we have some slavery because freedom? Shouldn't we have some genocide because freedom? Shouldn't we have some APAC or lobbyists spying politicians and starving children to get just a few more cents profit because freedom? No. Not sometimes it's good to be bad. No, if it's bad, it's always bad. You idiot. Wake up, you idiot.
Don't be disgusting.
Don't be disgusting, you idiot.
Can't you just engage with anything in a way that's like meaningful ever? Like, it's just boring,
Ever?
I think, is the problem. I'm just bored of it.
I'm just bored of it.
I've been a bad little girl.
You've been a bad girl.
The more holes, the better.
Not relevant.
But this is probably the stupidest, craziest example of this little kid style lying I think I've seen on this channel thus far.
Exactly. Statements or conclusions. Now, this is important because we're not just learning how to solve one rec center from being taken over by some evil billionaire in the movie. We want to solve all rec centers. In other words, we're not stopping one evil oil company from destroying our habitat for quarter profits for shareholders. No, all oil companies, you idiot. We're not just solving one particular problem, we are solving all human problems by moving from the, which allows you to go from the part or the specific or the individual to the whole or the all. All problems, not just your problem. Yeah, your problem. Not just your specific problem that's a part. Yeah, absolutely solve that, but also all problems. So we don't just solve the problems of the Abrahamic religions and the terrible injustice and suffering inflicted on the individuals and the world because of it. No, any religion like that will come up tomorrow or next year or whenever Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos start their Mars death cult or whatever. Which means we are learning not just things that apply to this time in history, we are learning things that we can carry within our soul, within our way of being, within our thinking and seeing, perceiving reality and relating to ourselves and everyone else that transcends this lifetime. If we're here to do anything, it has to be a kind of learning that we can take with us because we're not here forever. This is forever being. It's one of its aspects, eidos, eternity. That's why we derive the principles from it. That's why it should be our object of learning. For everyone, because we're all immortal souls. We're all of the same intelligence. Another reason why it's not beliefs for some, it's beliefs for none. Understanding for all, happiness for all, for life fulfillment and excellence for all. Not for some, but for all. Not your meaning of life, but the meaning of life. Not what helps you, but not the Palestinian children. No. All. Not money for Trump, but no money for other Americans. No. Not healthcare for the rich, but but suffer and die for the poor. No. All. So we are seeing playing out in real time the implications of what follow if we don't demand this. Demand what? Demand an understanding of understanding so we can derive a universal model or paradigm based on the logos, which is eternal, from which we derive principles that are always true and beneficial, so we can make generalized statements and conclusions that we can use in this life and beyond. And throughout this galaxy, if we pull this stunt off and save our species from extinction, many species have gone extinct. We can be one of them, but if we don't, we can ask the question, what next? If we get over this bullshit part by learning this, what kind of a future can we have as a mean analogy? If we learn the significance of the mean analogy and its highest functioning through philosophical midwifery, can our species itself be a mean analogy? Or what next? Can our species itself function using these universal principles that are always true and beneficial as a mean analogy? And therefore benefit the cosmos. Okay, so that's what happens if you recognize your situation through understanding by simply reading that one paragraph of this book that kicks ass, applying to all people within a PATHOLOGOS and all people growing up in an Abrahamic religion. So, did I mention this book kicks ass? Of all of the asses that are to be kicked, this book kicks all of them. What I'm saying is, this book here that we are reading right now, because of the significance of that paragraph for all people and the entire cosmos and our entire race, of all of the asses to kick, this book doesn't kick just one specific ass, doesn't just kick an individual ass or a part of an ass, it kicks the whole ass and all of the asses. This book kicks all of the ass, and all of the asses that is there to be kicked is being kicked by this book. That's how good this book is. Right? So put that in an email send it to Jeff Bezos and say, we need 11-star system for just this book. How many other books are true and objective in this kind of a way allows us to understand the fundamental nature of what's causing our problems in the world, and also opens us up to discovering our destiny as a species? None other books. No other books does. Therefore, 11 stars. And leave the quote, all asses kicked. Who would leave that quote? LeBron James. See? Look, this is the point I'm trying to make. Make the Amazon profile named LeBron James. Leave a 11-star review and make your comment, all asses kicked. That's what I've been trying to say from the start. Yay. Okay, we can delete that stuff. It's a bit silly. Now, that's the implications of answering the question asked in chat and moving upwards out of this way of thinking. But in the book, we have another question that is specifically, what if you move down? You realize that this group that you've been in sucks and you feel conflicted, both like and unlike, same and different, limited in a negative way. And you don't move up to and through understanding for a paradigm, but you're more like the left wing, and you just go to an anything goes Democratic Party kind of mentality of, oh well, I don't know, maybe nothing, maybe don't help anybody and let Trump get in. I don't know, I'm just a small bean. The small bean defense. Okay? That's the question. All right, so I took a quick break. I got some coffee. Cheers. Cheers to coffee. Cheers. And we just answered a fantastic question. We have the best chatters. All of the best chatters are in this chat room. The most beautiful chatters. All the best chatters are in this chat room. And they asked the question, hey, maybe not everyone is able to understand or wants to or shouldn't have to or something like that. Maybe beliefs for some, understanding for a few. So we reviewed the significance of that. The fact that we all start off as believers and that we all get a PATHOLOGOS, which is either the same or very similar to what we've been reading here in the Abrahamic religions. And we talked about, therefore, the consequence of that being philosophical midwifery, which itself is an understanding art, is needed for all people because it's the only activity that makes use of the small amount of ousia and the small amount of logos to solve problems and develop. And unless people want to suffer, understanding is therefore for everyone. And as beliefs, fundamental false beliefs, are the cause of our problems, then the idea that beliefs for some means suffering for some. And if we can conclude that we all have our own unique PATHOLOGOS, meaning we come in with our problems, then the meaning of life for everyone is to go through a movement from belief-based thinking into understanding-based thinking in order to solve the problems our souls were carrying into this life. So it's the meaning of life for everyone. It's necessary for everyone who is having problems or suffering, and necessary for everyone who wants to reach their goals. And we have to have Well, ideally, we all then go on to master midwifery ourselves. But we all need to have an apprehension of this so that we can demand the people who are the fastest, the people who are the smartest and the bestest. We demand they take leadership roles. Or we force upon them. Well, we don't force it. We have to make a very convincing case to the best of us who are the best at midwifery, the best at understanding, and have the best understanding of how to move everyone from beliefs to understanding to save our species, but also to remove the problems that we face. We have to make a very good case that these people should take office, take leadership positions. So we all need it. In the very least, I need an awareness of it so that we can all say, we promise we won't kill you like we did Socrates. I know the logos is going to trigger everyone's pathologos, and that's normal and expected. We promise we will not just blindly go along with our hatred and savagery. Because we all understand that understanding is for everyone and midwifery is for everyone, and we all benefit from it. So, now the question in the book is, what if we went the other way? What if we left it downward, not upward through midwifery, but downward? We just left our religion. That's Jesus' question. What would you say to the condition of the believers who once, former believers who leave the system that they had formerly committed to? They would now feel other than each other in their group, since they lost that sameness. You're no longer the same as that group that you had previously identified with. You will be other than each other, and therefore you'll become a mass of differences. Other than each other. And now, fundamentally, you move up to a paradigm, or if you move down without a paradigm, like the Democrats, you are left without a paradigm or model. Therefore, you'll be making decisions arbitrary. Sometimes we invade a country, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we starve children to death, sometimes we don't. Since what formerly allowed them to make distinctions in general is absent, without the conviction of general statements being legitimate, they descend to the apparent safety of making only particular judgments. That's the appeal. People who say, who's to say what's right and wrong? Oh, it's rude to challenge religions. Don't judge other cultures' ethics and morality. It was a different time. Sounds very safe, doesn't it? To say nothing. Get out of the way while they do their genocide. Get out of the way while Trump invades another country. Sounds safe, doesn't it, Democrats? So, notice the question that you're asking is an example of what we're talking about. The safety of saying, hey, to me, I think it's important not to genocide the Palestinians. But that's just my personal, particular judgment. There's a feeling of apparent safety in moving down to that way of thinking. But what we need to do is move up. So instead of saying, what's something to you, what's your truth, what's your particular judgment, what is the truth? Should we ever genocide people? Should we ever have wealth inequality? Should we ever poison lakes for profits of CEOs? Now we just reviewed the movement up through philosophical midwifery. Philodianoia, the art for everyone. And the question is, what if we move down? So, rephrase your question, but make that about truth. Not a particular opinion. So, the apparent safety of only talking about particular judgments. The appearance of equality with one another will lack grounds. For if they had such conditions and grounds for belief, they would find something similar to that which they left. Hence, they would appear to be similar in thinking and acting like themselves, but they would still see each other unlike each other. So, when we say, what's your truth? Or what's your meaning of life? We kind of feel like we're the same as other lefties who never make a generalized statement. Libertarians or something like that. I don't know if there's a name for that sort of class of person. We call that way of thinking, it's all relative. There's no truth. It's just relative to your own opinions. Modern philosophy, Aristotle. Kant's philosophy, Hegel's philosophy, Nietzsche's philosophy. Who's to say what's the truth? No, that's not philosophy. Philosophy is specifically studying the paradigm of truth, the realm of being. And with that paradigm, you can judge Nietzsche and Aristotle and Hegel and say, oh, this is where you were right, this is where you were wrong. This is likely your problem or PATHOLOGOS. This is the next step you need to make. So rephrase your question and make it not about a particular opinion, but make it about truth, which is a general statement that people who've left beliefs downwards lack. They think they're like other people who've rejected religion, other atheists, maybe. Well, yeah, atheists like that. Because they realized their religion was dumb and now they don't believe in anything. But really they're unlike each other. They lack anything same or in common with each other. The kind of reflection that would cause them to discover the root of their problems is missing. That would have been an upward movement through midwifery. And the idea of discovering the root of their problems is rejected because if they could purge themselves of their sins or problems, there would be no need for forgiveness and feeling justified by their faith in repeatedly being absolved of the sense of guilt that they had by participating in the faith. So the appeal of belief-based thinking is, instead of ousia and logos through midwifery to solve the cause of your problems, we are just going to pat you on the head, do a sign of the cross, tell you to say 10 Hail Marys, and you're absolved of your feeling of guilt. You don't learn, you keep making the same mistakes, but that you use that as a justification. No. It's that removal of my guilt that justifies me being a blind believer, believing in the absurd. Faith. What faith is. Faith is, by definition, an absurd belief. You can't prove it, you just gotta have faith. Believe it because you're told to. Since their former belief had no place for ousia, self-reflection, which leads to self-discovery, they continued to deny that power in themselves. Therefore, they lack what we call ousia, which is the intellectual power to know the self. What's ousia? Well, we've already been talking about it's one of the necessary elements for solving problems, removing our suffering, A. And B, developing to our purpose, our highest excellence, the meaning of life. Ousia and logos. Love, because by the way, that highest excellence is beauty itself. We can add love in there. Love and logos. Phil and Dianoia. Yeah, for everyone. So, ousia, super important, which means it'd be neat if you had a document or a workbook and you had at the top of one of the pages ousia and you take notes. Whenever you see in this book Someone talking about ousia, write it down. Last time we talked about how the art for everyone, midwifery, needs content. You can't do midwifery unless you've got a problem. You can't have a problem unless you're seeking a meaningful goal. And when seeking a meaningful goal, you have to take notes about the thoughts and feelings that come up that try and dissuade you from that goal. You need the material to do midwifery on. It's not just throwing opinions around in the air. Equally so, to understand something, you need the notes. We talked about the structure of the dialectic being how we arrange our understanding. Here. If the subject exists and if it doesn't. But how are you going to fill this up? From your own beliefs? Then you're not learning anything. It has to be from a text. That's why we read. So here we have an example of a clue or some material that you could be writing down. And from our reflection a moment ago, we see how important it is. Ousia. Intellectual power. Write that note down. If you want to. To know the self. How important is it to know the self? Knowing the self, is that the whole point of the whole thing? Is that our highest excellence? Is that the meaning of life? And the nature of reality. Hey, how important is it to know the eternal nature of reality or being from which we derive principles that are always true, from which we can make generalized statements? So if we need to know nature of reality for that, to be good people, and we need to know the self because that's what we're here for, that's the whole point, that's the goal, the telos, the first and final cause, then how important is ousia if it's the intellectual power to reach those goals? Write it down. Put it in a dialectic. And without ousia, the ability to reach the nature of reality, understand the paradigm, and ultimately to reach the goal of knowing the self, you fall into the apparent safety of just saying, who's to say? Or asking the question asked in chat, what does it mean to you? And I started by saying, first rephrase that question, take out that to you part and make it a statement about what's true. What do you care what it means to me? That's just an opinion. You'll either dismiss it if you don't already believe it, or if you agree, then what's the point? Do you see the difference I'm making? Okay, that's where we are. Let's keep reading. Jesus. Are we not strangers to the idea of self? No, we are not. We are not strangers to the idea of self. Indeed, as in John's Gospel, the beginning of John's Gospel, all things came to be through self. And apart from self, not one thing came to be. You describe, that's the beginning. After which, John falls off the boat, begins to save Paul. You describe the predicament of believers very well. You must have studied them and have understood their nature. What kind of reflection brought you to see them in this way of yours? See, how cool was it that we could, in a few paragraphs, understand the nature of believers, Abrahamic believers, maybe PATHOLOGOS believers? That was our hypothesis, our interesting exploration, and maybe all believers on all planets, in all dimensions, in all times, for all time, here and beyond. How did he think that way? We can avoid the next death cult by Elon Musk if we just read that paragraph. 10 out of 10 stars on Amazon. I think that LeBron James left a really good review of this book. What kind of reflection brought you to see them in this way? My deepest thanks for that, Jesus. So, there is a kinship between our traditions. Later I will acquaint myself with where else you use the idea of self. So he wants to know where they both talk about the self. There is something in man that knows when he is asked to believe in something, and in accepting that belief, it changes him. Belief moves the soul in a certain way, and changes one's vision into its opposite, a limited vision. Ooh. For all belief, when it is urged upon us, comes with another belief. And that is, well, that the belief is true. There are different kinds of belief, but the kind we are talking about is believing something is true when there is not only nothing to support it, but it is in principle impossible for there to be anything to support it. So a good example, believe Mary was a virgin. Why? No, what? Why? Because I say so, that's why. But is there any evidence to support it? No. Can there be any evidence to support it? No. The world's gonna end and we should try and make the world end? Is there any evidence for that? No. Can there be? No. Then why should I believe it? Shut up. You do as you're told. Oh, in chat. The thing is that words have different meanings, even from one philosopher to another. Oh, okay. This is a position. It's called, is it all relative, or it is all relative. Words don't have a meaning. When I say that's my car, to you that could mean that's my airplane. Right? When I say that's beauty, maybe I mean it's ugly. Who's to say? So paradigm is a word that's used by many philosophers in history. Sure, there are many people with different opinions and beliefs. And I think they all seek for the truth. Well, what made you think that? To seek for the truth requires courage, requires a courage to reflect on your early religious beliefs. Jesus didn't have that. He didn't challenge his early beliefs. He became more entrenched in them. Hegel didn't do that. Kant didn't do that. Staunchly supporting their old beliefs. So were they really seeking truth? But words aren't ideas in their truth, they are tools for thinking. So the idea of being able to see the paradigm and metaphysics, the whole idea of philosophy. See, this is an idea of philosophy. It's maybe worth talking about. So Socrates has been saying, hey, look, just as you have Paul, Jesus, that completely misrepresented your position, I had Aristotle. And Aristotle completely changed what I was saying. Philosophy, philos, Sophia, is the love of wisdom. What is wisdom? Is wisdom actually a thing? Or can wisdom be anything? Knowing how to fish really nicely. Knowing how to manipulate people to earn money. It's whatever you want. Nope. wisdom has a specific meaning. There is a world of being, becoming, the physical world that we see through our senses. There is a realm of being that is eternal. That is the cause of the world of becoming. And then, of course, there has to be a cause of self above that. Now, all of the aspects that Socrates is using in his thinking, whole and part, same and different, like and unlike, beauty, justice, goodness, these are all aspects of being. Aspects of being. In the Greek, they're called aidos. Now, one difficulty is eidos sounds like idea. So we think it's just a concept. It's just an abstraction. It's just a make-em-ups. Language doesn't have any inherent meaning. It's just an idea. In fact, the more that you participate in language, the more away from reality you're going, because what's real is the physical world. That's a mistranslation from a guy named Benjamin Jowett. No, the Greek is eidos, which means to behold the aspects. These are experienced in the brilliant light of being that Jesus and Socrates has been talking about, or nous, which is knowledge or wisdom. These are what we focus on in dianoia. Understanding isn't understanding the physical world. Dianoia, or understanding. You develop an understanding through it, through the dialectic of it, through the dialectic. And that prepares your mind to apprehend it directly. The combination of these two, that's wisdom. This is called metaphysics. Metaphysics. Now, Socrates was murdered by us before he could write this all down. So we are able to learn a lot from Plato, but after Plato came Aristotle. Aristotle rejects metaphysics. Aristotle is our modern philosophy. It's not philosophy, but it's what we think is philosophy tradition. Socrates calls it philodoxia, or the love of opinions. That's your education. That's your culture. That's what you are speaking through when you say there is no truth to ideas, or all modern philosophers have their own different ideas. That's not philosophy. That's opinions. That's Aristotle. That's our tradition. That's why we're in the mess we're in. Our job on this channel and in this book is to see that and realize that words have meaning. Words not only have meaning, they have an existence. They have a selfhood. Meaning we say self-beauty, self-justice, and we call them the selfers. That's philosophy. We start up as a baby in the world of becoming, seeing through our physical senses, becoming. Everything in the physical world is changing. And then we start to notice things. And then we start to ask a question. Hang on a second. If there's beauty over there and beauty over there, or rather a beautiful dog and a beautiful person, where did beauty itself come from? In other words, if we see adjectives like beauty and justice, we never see a physical beauty itself, but we recognize it. We're attracted to it. Where did we get knowledge of beauty and justice? It can't have been in the physical world because we only see examples, or rather we see things that trigger memories. That's the movement from loving learning to philosophy. Philomathesis, philosophia. When we start asking the questions, what's the cause of our physical world? Now we're in philosophy. Modern philosophy shits on all that. Says, nope, I draw a line here. That's Aristotle. That's our modern tradition. Therefore, if you go on YouTube and you look at a philosophy lecture, they're going to be not dumb, that's a bit mean, people talking about their opinions. Stoic philosophy. Stoic philosophy is the language of philosophy without metaphysics. That's your tradition. That's why you asking the question, what does it mean to you? The real question is, what's the truth of a paradigm? Paradigm means specifically universal truth. You can't answer that question without accepting there is such a thing as universal truth. That's what the word means. The universal map or model for all reality. It's the logos. The fact that we can have language, discover language. The fact that 1 + 1 = 2, not just for us. For any species that evolves on any planet, in any time, in any universe, they can discover 1 + 1 = 2. They can discover harmony. They can discover beauty. They can discover justice. They all will seek their goodness. And they might all go through different categories of development, including the one we're looking at here. Believers. People who are bound together by belief. This can end a species. Aristotle, modern philosophy, ends a species. Notice that we still have nukes. Notice that we still have genocide. Notice that we still have nuclear Armageddon. But what about all of these philosophers that the universities have been pumping out for years? What the fuck are they doing? If philosophers aren't able to solve problems, what the fuck is philosophy? Why is it the meaning of life according to Socrates? Why is it specifically what we're all here to do if it doesn't solve problems? Because it's not philosophy. It's Aristotle. And that's the issue of the book. Christians don't listen to Jesus at all. They listen to Paul. Paul rejects everything Jesus says and then makes up a bunch of fucking horse shit about sin and devils and the end of the world and churches. And Jesus didn't say any of that. Likewise, Aristotle. Oh, it's all about opinions and abstract. No. The whole point of philosophy is to go beyond belief and opinions. That's the divided line. The divided line in book 4 and book 6 of the Republic says, hey, here is the physical world. Here is the world of being that you can know, the intelligible. Most people are trapped here in image thinking, caused by beliefs. This is ignorance. This is what causes problems. This is the cave. You're inside a cave You're seeing the physical shadows of the physical world on the back of a cave. That's ignorance. Understanding is here, directed to the realm of being, not the physical world. And if you do the dialectic, which is the art of understanding, you can actually directly experience the world of being, which is eternal. That's nous. This is bigger than this and this and this, because it's a bigger cognitive function. This is opening the eye of your soul. You have another sense. You've got ears that can hear, you've got eyes that can see. You've got this thing called ousia that can apprehend your own mind as pure being, which is constantly causing the physical world, generating the physical world, maintaining the principle, the physical world. And within it, it's eidos, not forms, eidos, not ideas, eidos, not concepts. The aspects of the realm of being inform the physical world and also give us all of the principles of the physical world, but also give us the principles and nature of understanding. And that's what Socrates has been using. You experience this as wholeness. Whole. It's the whole of every part that will ever be in existence. Whole and part. It's perfectly self-contained. There's nothing outside of it. So you know everything all at once. Completely limited. But it contains everything in all possible directions forever. Infinity. Whole, part, limit, unlimit. These are all the aspects of understanding that Socrates is using to guide his conversation. And we use them in midwifery to help people out of Aristotle, out of it's all relative, out of it's just your opinion and my opinion and Kant's opinion and Trump's opinion and Netanyahu's opinion and Hitler's opinion, out of that ignorant way of savage thinking that we get from caveman days before we awakened two things, before we awakened logos or language and ousia or self-reflection. The human beings that survived had this idea. Let's just believe Trump, cave leader, and everything inside the cave is good and safe. Everything outside the cave is bad and scary. That's what Netanyahu is using. Oh, the Palestinians are different, and they're brown, and they have Muslim beliefs. Oh, scary. Maybe we should kill them. Trump's the same thing. Immigrants are weird and not like your mummy and daddy. Ignorant, savage, caveman shit, which is belief-based thinking, from which we derive our images of ourselves, and all human beings are zombies or slaves, or, slaves to the zombie virus called the PATHOLOGOS, a false image about yourself that you carry that molds how you act and feel. It molds your face, your gestures. It becomes your self-identity caused by beliefs, which is a shadow of understanding, which is caused by nous. Getting some spam, let's get rid of the spam. Hey, welcome, Navadi. I'll get to your question in a minute. I hope you find something fun in the channel. So, our image thinking is generated from false beliefs from childhood. Equally so for the Abrahamic religions, keeping us down here. Equally true for modern philosophy, the love of opinions. This is the realm of opinion. This is the realm of truth. So when you say, what does this mean to you? Well, to me, Lord of the Rings means Jesus loves me. And to me, it means we should kill all the Palestinian babies. But that's just my truth. I don't know. What's your truth? No. That's not what it says. That's not what it means. Read the book. We're learning how to read on this channel, which is to move from opinions and beliefs, modern philosophy, which isn't philosophy but the love of opinion, philos doxia, love of opinion, to developing our understanding necessarily through midwifery to free ourselves from the chains of belief, to cross this line. And then once we reach understanding here, we can develop the dialectic. We apply it to not what do you think or what you think. If you're asking what people think, you're still in the physical world, looking at people. Fuck what people think. People are idiots. People are stupid. Look at what's true in the realm of being. We became intelligent to the extent we can share in nous, because all of the principles of intelligence are in there. The aspects, the eidos, the principles of intelligence, that's the logos. The logos is the paradigm. If you want a just world, use this. It's justice itself, self-justice. You want to make beautiful creations in the world, use this as the paradigm. This is a true universal paradigm for all time, because one of the aspects of being is eternity. It's forever. Yep. Care about people's, but no. Opinions are opinions. People, we care about them if they are open and curious and willing to change their mind. If someone is a genuine, open, generous, truth-seeking person, then they will try their best to reach their most meaningful goals. As they do so, their goals will rub up against their self-images. I can't be an artist because I'm just an idiot. My dad told me I'm an idiot. Images. And all I can be is a workman. Self-images. You can't have your image of you being an idiot from your dad and also be an artist. You can't have both. Therefore, as we seek our meaningful goals, you will surface the thoughts, the feelings, the inappropriate actions that block you from your goals. Write them down. And then find a philosophical midwife. Because philosophical midwifery is this here, understanding this part of the divided line. Number 3, got 1, 2, 3, 4. The use of understanding, the use of the dialectic to ask questions of this person to help them reflect on the cause of their self-image that blocks them. That's their beliefs. Beliefs chained us to ignorance and suffering. Now, if you're not genuine, then get the fuck out of here. Because you'll surface this false belief about yourself not being good enough. And then when you'll find it comes from dad, you'll say, no, but my daddy was the best daddy. He would never tell me I'm a bad person. Fuck you. Or, Jesus said I'm a sinner. I mean, Jesus didn't say that. Paul said that. Jesus specifically didn't say that. We've been lied to by the church, but ignore that. My priest loves me, and he would never lie to me. Get the fuck out. If you're not open and curious and genuinely seeking truth, get the fuck out of here. Because you're just going to defend the very beliefs that chain you to suffering, block you from your goals, and will play out in your injustice in the world. Netanyahu, Trump, Hitler, same old shit. Boring, boring, boring. Why? Because beliefs are false. Understanding is true because it's derived from truth itself. And the thing about beliefs is you just have to believe. There's no evidence. But understanding, you verify in your experience of pure being. That's wisdom. Philosophy is the love of wisdom. Modern philosophy isn't. It's the opposite. It's the exact opposite of everything philosophy does. That's Aristotle. Not Socrates, Aristotle. The idea of sin is Paul, not Jesus, Paul. This is the idea of interpretation. And at the beginning of the book, Socrates and Jesus said, how are we the same? And they said, well, here's one way we're the same. We both had this experience of the brilliant light of being, but we didn't write about it. So we left other people to write about our teachings for us who may never have had this experience or might not have the integrity to seek that experience and have the character to endure it. So they make it about beliefs. Let me go back and I'll get to you in a second, Navani. Let me finish Reeves' question. So, have all the philosophers been seeking truth? Absolutely not. Aristotle didn't. He rejected truth. He rejected metaphysics. Being is metaphysics. The aspects of being are the parts of understanding and what we focus on. Beauty. This is beauty itself. There were tools. Yep. People take words from their tradition. Exactly. That's the issue. We have to overcome our upbringing to understand for ourselves. And they use a way that they find useful. Yeah. Depending on what their goal is. Do you want to be a good Jew or a good Muslim or a good Mormon, or do you want to be a good person? Different goals. The truth of a word is actually multiple. That's Aristotle. Right. So you've very well articulated the position of development you're in. Now, obviously, you wouldn't be here if you're not here to learn, right? If you knew everything already, you wouldn't be here. So you're at a level of development, obviously, because our whole society is this. We reject metaphysics. We reject Socrates. We murdered Socrates. We burnt the academy down with the introduction of Christianity in 529 AD. Emperor Justinian burnt down the academy and said, no understanding for you, blind faith. And if I ever catch you reading a book, even the Bible, you will be killed on the spot. That's our tradition. That's the Dark Ages. That's what we need to emerge out of. That way of thinking, just blindly obey Trump and Netanyahu and your priest and your imam and your rabbi, is causing the terrible destruction we're facing on the planet. What we're doing in the book is understanding it. Not just the three Abrahamic religions, but every kind of belief-based thinking like it. If you invent a new religion tomorrow, it might fall into this group. We don't have to fall for it. We don't have to do another crusades. We don't have to do another genocide if we understand it. Like you yourself, if your pathologos is like this, your self-image comes from your beliefs, and your belief is a way of being that you were stuck in because you were only 4 years old. You couldn't leave. So it's kind of like your parents are like the king or the priest of the house. Then you have to believe to survive. I mean, you don't have to, but it's very dangerous to challenge. And you couldn't ask questions. You couldn't challenge your parental figures when you developed your pathologos belief, sick belief. That's the cause of your problems. You have a choice to sacrifice this belief and the apparent unity, the apparent togetherness you get, if you want to free yourself from the injustice you're suffering and you're inflicting on the world. Therefore, it's a moral and ethical obligation of every single person to go through philosophical midwifery, because it's the cause of our own problems, for our own development, and it's the cause of our repeating or copying the cruelty we suffered on others. That's just a true statement. One of the questions in the book is, how do we communicate that? Because when people hear the truth, they respond in many different ways. Some people get pissed. Who are you to say my daddy didn't know everything? My daddy was the best daddy and my mummy was a saint. Very, very common. Insane. Do you think the father across the street knew everything? Well, no, not him. What about the father next door? Well, no, not him. But my daddy? Really? But do you think their kids think the same thing? Yeah, but they're wrong. Same thing for religion. Do you think their apocalyptic death cult makes sense? No, there's no evidence. What about theirs? No, they're crazy. What about those? Do you see the way they treat women? What about yours? No, not mine. I'm the right one. That's a lack of integrity and a lack of maturity. But that's where we are. Ever talk to a MAGA? Ever change their mind? Therefore, understanding the truth of where we are in our cognitive development, the divided line, and what's required to move out of our problems, philosophical midwifery, challenging our earliest beliefs, surfacing a negative self-image, crossing this line from the world of opinions and ignorance to the world of truth and intelligibility, understanding the paradigm of understanding, which is the third, dianoia. That's part of the game. The other part, which is one of the messages of this book, is once you present a new teaching or rational truth, it's not like typing it into a computer and it just works straight away. What are the human responses? Because newsflash, they killed Socrates for just saying this same old shit. It's not old, it's good and it's important, but they killed him. We killed him. Human responses. Jesus had a new teaching, different from his Jewish upbringing, influenced by the Hellenic philosophers living nearby him, about the importance of removing beliefs and developing understanding to achieve a state of mind he calls the kingdom of heaven. How did Paul respond? Paul responded in the worst possible way to reject everything Jesus was saying and make up complete horse shit, which was the opposite. Jesus was the only Son of God. He was sacrificed for your sins. He is seated at the right hand of the Father. You have to believe him, and then the end of the world will come in 50 years. Like 2,000 years ago, it was supposed to happen. He's wrong. He's an idiot. He stoned human beings to death for fun. That's Paul. You have to believe and believe him because he is appointed by God. He's better than Jesus even. And if you do that, the end of the world will come, Jesus will come on a cloud, and the believers who have taken baptism and Eucharist, the wafers, will go to heaven. This is all modern Christianity. None of it was said by Jesus. The opposite. Taking the opposite of a new truth is one of the reactions to a new truth. Aristotle, we just went through, the opposite of what Socrates says, but Aristotle claims to speak for Socrates, claims to be a philosopher, even though Socrates specifically gave a name for what Aristotle was, not a philosopher, philodoxia, lover of opinions. Therefore, that's one human response to new thinking and rational truth. We've got some others. We've got the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah takes the new rational truth and takes a little piece of it as a patchwork for its old, I think it's Sephardic, religious thinking, where Kabbalah comes from. Take a little bit of it and use it as a patch. It can be a wolf in sheep's clothing, claim to be speaking rationality, but really, like Peterson, somebody said Jordan Peterson's like that. He claims to be speaking for modern enlightenment and intellectual understanding, while talking about lobsters to justify sexism and racism, and keeps talking about Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. So we need to get all of the possible human responses to truth. Because if this is for everyone, the meaning of life for everyone, the solving of problems for everyone, and the understandable paradigm of understanding and justice and beauty, we need this to solve problems in our world. We need midwifery to solve problems in our world, and we need this to establish a principle. No politicians or spiritual leaders have fucking principles. They're hypocrites. But no one knows why hypocrites is bad. Yeah, politicians lie. They all lie. Don't laugh about it. Understand that if there's a liar or a contradiction or a hypocrisy, it means the principle they're using is not of being. It's not the logos. It's not always applicable and beneficial, which means they should lose their job right there and then. As soon as the doctor starts lying to his patients in a way that harms their health so the doctor can make profit, we call it corruption, and he loses his license immediately. Same thing for a pilot, same thing for any other profession in the world except for kings and clergy. They're the ones who don't need principles, don't need understanding, just beliefs. That's the issue. We can be very mature when it comes to building computers, doing surgery, but when it comes to our soul and our society, politicians and clergy, we are completely irrational. Therefore, what's the reason that benefits all universally for fucking genocide in Palestine? No universal and beneficial reason. Therefore, hypocrisy. Therefore, they are not following understanding and knowledge. They are following false beliefs and images from their fucking childhood. What do you think Netanyahu's dad was like? Jewish, Zionist, racist piece of shit? What do you think Trump's dad was like? KKK official? Yup. Scammer? Sexist? Chauvinist? Oh, yep. What do you know? They're doing the exact same thing because it's not a personal attack, it's a universal human principle. The cause of human problems is a principle. It will always apply. Therefore, the art of using principles to understand the cause and origin of problems is also a universal principle. That's why we can say it's the meaning of life. Not Trump's meaning of life or Netanyahu, everyone's. It's the meaning of life. To go through philosophical midwifery, move from the beliefs and false images that are false and cause suffering in your life and in the world, and move into the realm of understanding so you can understand yourself, you can understand the mind from which balloons come and principles come, and you can ultimately understand the cause even of this, the one self, from which all of this unfolds, within which all of this happens, and back to which all of this returns. The one self, the first and final cause, unfolding through the logos, which is the paradigm. Experienced completely in the brilliant light of being, the highest possible experience, what the Taoists think is enlightenment. But the Taoists do not recognize the understandable intellectual aspects, eidos, the paradigm within it. If they did, they would have understanding, because it's the intelligibility of that experience that understanding comes from. And what we're seeing in Socrates is him using the aspects of understanding artfully in his conversation with Jesus. How are we the same? How are we different? How are we like? How are we unlike? What's the whole? What's the parts? How are we limited? What makes us unlimited? Artful use of language and thought, using the truth of language, which has an existence eternally. You're right, in our tradition, we're taught the opposite. We're taught Aristotle and Paul. But we're awakening the truth of the selfhood of Logos. and how we can use it to benefit, either in reaching the truth in this conversation or reflecting on our earliest beliefs in philosophical midwifery. That's the meaning of life. But we also have to understand all of the reactions to learning about this, because the first reaction is going to be, get the hell out of here. I don't think that, and I think everything that's right. My daddy told me, my preacher told me, my Muslim, rabbi told me, my imam told me. And they were right, because they do skateboarding. They're the coolest preacher, and they'd play electric guitar. So fuck you. It's literally, that's going to be our first reaction. Therefore, you need courage and integrity to stay with it until you reach the end. And then turn around and help others. If it wasn't for Socrates, if it wasn't for Dr. Grimes, we wouldn't be here having this conversation. So keep the tradition going. As you were helped, help others. So good question. Do you believe in free will? So now that we've had this reflection, can you see a inherent flaw in your question? Is it a question about truth that you can understand universally for always? Or are you asking about a personal opinion, what we call a belief? People care, okay. So anything is possible if you let go of the opinions of... Oh, nicely said. Anything is possible if you let go of the opinions of closed-minded people. Well done, awesome. Now, here's the thing. Do you have the will or inspiration? Make it inspiration. Find something you find most beautiful and attractive in your world. Something that when times get hard, can you think of your goal and be inspired to keep going? Because times will get hard, because the PATHOLOGOS that keeps us trapped in ignorance is the most powerful force in the universe. Many people have had experience of being, of nous, but then go back to their problems. It's so common that there's an archetype in anime. In Dragon Ball Z, Goku's teacher is a guru, has had an experience of pure being, but he's still a pervert. In other words, there's two parts to it. There's understanding the truth of being and experiencing it, but there's applying your understanding to uncover your false beliefs from childhood. In other words, removing your problems is not the same as reaching truth. So you have the archetype. Naruto, he had the pervy sage. Or the drunken master, still have a problem with alcoholism. So, seek a goal. So in other words, even if you are lucky enough to have an experience of yourself as eternity, being, the fourth, nous, wisdom, your PATHOLOGOS, your false beliefs from childhood that you've been identifying with your whole life, is going to pull you back. So find a goal that's so beautiful and inspiring that you can hold on to it even when your PATHOLOGOS do the counterattack. That's not for you. Maybe Socrates can fulfill his destiny and complete his journey on Earth, but not me. You're just a small bean. You're just a wee small bean. Yeah, it will say that. It will say that. And it will fight back in every possible way. Keep going. And share your ups and downs with the community. Join the Discord. This was my goal. I've always wanted to do this, and I realized I put it down when I was young. And every time I pick it up, I hear mum's voice or dad's voice saying, do something practical. But I'm going to pick it up anyway. And then as you go, you will... But every time you do that, you pick up that instrument or you pick up that goal or you seek that thing, every thought and feeling that tries to knock you down, write it down. Because those are the clues. You don't know you have a false belief. You think it's real. That's the difficulty. It feels real. It feels normal. It feels obvious. You have to surface the clues, the negative thoughts, the negative feelings, the inappropriate actions that come up when you seek your meaningful goals. And then you find someone who's learning philosophical midwifery. We read it together on the channel in the Discord, and you say, hey, let's have a talk. And then hopefully you're both learning philosophical midwifery, because it's the application of the dialectic, number 3, to a structure or paradigm of questions that you get asked that allow you to uncover your unsuspected false beliefs about yourself that causes your problems. And when you understand it sufficiently enough, it's gone. You don't replace it with a new belief. It's not positive thinking. You're free of beliefs. That could be a scary state. But how do I navigate the world completely open and free and... That's a state we call being stung. It's good. And then you'll continue to develop from there. So, good question. Yes, let go of the opinions of closed-minded people. Yes, the tricky thing is letting go of the opinions of closed-minded people that you love the most, because they appeared to be loving and caring and beautiful when you were too young to know better. That's the difficulty. And yes, you'll find people in your life that resemble them. Like 10 people will cross you as you walk down the street. It's the one that reminds you of those people. That's the person you'll respond to. Someone say, hey, your ears are too big. You know, forget about it. Hey, weirdo, I'm walking here. And you won't even remember it. Okay, you eat too much of pizza. Doesn't affect you. And the guy who says, that's a big nose. That's the person. What? Yeah, you're a big nose freak. What? Oh, that's the person. It's that kind of insult that resembles your earliest teachers that will trigger you and keep you blocked, keep you distracted, undermine your goals. That's the point, because that's a clue. You got to keep your cool. One of the virtues is keeping your cool. There are 4 fundamental virtues on your journey. Things that you have to practice. You don't have them automatically yet. Eventually they upgrade, they level up. Keeping your cool, or temperance. Keep your cool. The people who trigger you, take notes. What do they sound like? What thoughts came up? They're the clues that you use in philosophical midwifery to uncover what you're here to uncover, your false belief about yourself. That reflects a problem you had as a soul before you came here. Courage. Can you hold the logos and your understanding of the danger of the pathologos in all the ups and downs, pleasures and pains, fears and desires? Courage. Wisdom. Can you use this? Oh, I'm going to bed. Thanks for falling asleep at the computer. Thanks for hanging out. Good question. And this is your thing here, Reeve. Wisdom. Can you follow the paradigm as best you can? 4, following the logos and identifying your pathologos that blocks you. And finally, justice. Can you do it at all times? Such that you bake these into your soul. So that if you find yourself in a dream or in an enlightenment experience or in a different dimension, or after you've passed away and your soul goes to another place, can you have baked these ways of being into your soul that it's now your way of being. So, good questions. I reckon rabbi skateboarding and playing electric guitar would be really convincing. I don't know, does it exist? Yeah, I think that with streaming, it makes me happy to think about, because I want to make it, but I struggle with opinions, nice, and patience, yes, and it gets hard, yes. So, if you can join the Discord, and, you know, it's not a solo quest. Share your ups and downs. And the channel is pretty new, so we'll find better ways of connecting, and maybe eventually we'll do dream analysis. Your dreams are your guide. You'll learn midwifery, and you can practice midwifing others through their problems, which will help you gain insight into the difficulties you're facing. And then vice versa, then, you know, you can swap roles and they can midwife you through your problems. You're right, it's a way of being. It's a new way of being. When people say I won't make it with streaming or YouTube, whatever, it splits me in half. Ah, nice. Take notes. Get a notebook. Can you see how beautiful your language is? Splits me in half. That's an analogy. Have you ever played a Sherlock Holmes game or something like that, where you have to go to the crime scene and you look at clues, but then you go back to Baker Street and you have to piece the clues together? Your words, your logos are your clues. The crime scene is when you seek your most meaningful goals and you hit a block. So all of these other crime stories or video games, they are just shadows of the real game, the real hero's journey. This. Which means, as you go through it, you might be able to make some cool stories, because all you're doing is you are living the real hero's journey, and you can use that as a model to create your own stories. The difference being, they don't know the model, the paradigm, philosophical midwifery and true philosophy. You do, or you're learning it. So the works that you create, Socrates says, the works that you can create as you go through this can last 1,000 years and be objects of contemplation for mankind that will rival even Homer and Hesiod. So, an example of that is the language, split in half. Write that down. 50% defeated and 50% just want to make it so bad I just keep doing it. Now, you won't see the significance of this language yet, but eventually after you start to fill a few pages, you keep going and you keep getting knocked down, and you write about keeping getting knocked down, but you have courage and you keep going anyway. And then someone really gives you some feedback that really knocks you down, and you have to breathe deeply from your stomach to keep your cool, but you write it down anyway. Eventually you'll start noticing some themes, some common themes that come up. Then you're ready for a midwife talk. Another question, how do you improve and become a better person in this toxic world when you're just being constantly bombarded with negativity? Even when I'm with friends, I feel the negativity and feel myself getting further from my goal of becoming a good person. That's the game. That's the game. That's a good question. Carry it. To carry a question like that is to be on a quest. As you continue to learn philosophical midwifery, the art of removing problems, and philosophy, how to use that freedom from problems to understand and reach your highest goals, keep that question with you. It's like an inventory. When you're in a video game, you've got an inventory. One of your items in your inventory is a sack with questions. That's a good one. Put it in your sack. Carry it. See what it does. And as you go, it's like a weapon. You can even polish the weapon. Polish your question. narrow it down to a few words. Use it. You meet someone clever, bounce the question off them, see if it helps. It's a good one. As you go, share it in the Discord. Here is my question, and here is how well I've described it. I've got it down to like 15 words. Look how beautiful it is. I polished it up like a stone, like a gem. And then as you go, you'll have insights into your quest. You'll have insights into your goal, but also you might awaken insights into your question. So just as you share in the Discord the problems that you face, share your insights. And having a question like that is a good thing to carry. So, on that note, I think it might be a good time to call it. 3 hours in. What's the time? Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for giving birth to a question that you might carry with you on your journey. That's pretty neat. Right. And in the book, we realize that, hey, this is the significance of when we find ourselves in belief-based thinking. Oh, you're welcome. And we fall out of that. Do we fall down? Oh, look. Little picture. Thanks for following. Do we fall out of our belief, either Abrahamic beliefs or even family beliefs, into a world where we just lack a model, lack a paradigm? We can only talk about personal opinions, a lot of which are just negative. Or is there a way that we've talked about today where we can move upward through the love of understanding to be able to grasp not a justification for our general statements based on our groupthink, personal opinions, Paul's opinions, mummy and daddy's opinions, which are from their mummy and daddy, great-grandpa and great-great-great-grandpa, all the way back to the cave. But we instead rise up to a way of understanding based on an actual universal paradigm, allowing us to benefit, allowing us to understand that paradigm, experience it in that divine luminosity Jesus and Socrates have been talking about, understand the rationality of it, use the understanding of the realm of being, the brilliant light of being, as a new universal paradigm for justice, beauty, and understanding. Use that understanding and that paradigm together to midwife others out of their group way of thinking, to benefit them. Be a mean, pass on the teaching. But also use your understanding to understand even that luminosity, to ask yourself dialectical questions like, hey, what's the cause even of that? If that was an experience, what had that experience? Is there something beyond being? Nice. Lots to wonder about. Super exciting. Did I mention this book kicks ass? How much ask you may be asking? The whole ask and all of the ass. Kicks all of the ass all of the time. That's how ass kicking this book is. And I'll see you in the next one.